Hi, I'm Lisa Capalla. Welcome to Where's Wilmington. You know, do you have days when you just don't feel like yourself? Well, it might not be for what you think. Maybe someone's stolen your identity. Hopefully not, and hopefully today's show will help you to prevent that from happening. And if it has happened to you, you're one of the 1 in 8 now, they say, right,
it's
Julie?
Even depending on statistics,
yeah,
it could be
1 in
higher.
the 8 folks that have had this happen. So we're talking today with Julie Gershon. She is from Unique Benefits Group, and we're going to be talking about identity theft, how it happens, what you can do about it, as much as we can cover in this half an hour today. And Julie's actually going to be back with us in February, so we're going to talk a little bit today about the basics of identity theft, and then we'll try to get into the little bit more of the meat in the second half. And be sure to tune in February, because we're going to give you some more tips around tax time. So let's start, Julie, with welcoming you. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for having
Glad
me.
you pulled yourself out of the trenches of the identity theft world to come and speak with us. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the business that you do, the Unique Benefits Group.
Sure. I work with a company, Unique Benefits Group, as my sister and I, and we work with a company called Legal Shield that offers a legal plan and an identity theft program.
Okay.
And it was just about 10 years ago they introduced an identity theft one, and quite frankly, Lisa, I shrugged at it. I said, you know, this isn't something I can sink my teeth into it. I didn't understand it, and I said, show me something that can give some substance to it that I can say, okay, this makes sense to me.
Right.
And we had a little session afterwards, about 100 people, and 2 people stood up and said we were victims of identity theft, and they told their story, and I was like, wow.
Right.
And since then, you know, we see it on the news every night. We see it on TV. It was on Person of Interest last night. It was on Bones last week, you know, as
Right.
a topic of what's happening to people. And
Right. I can remember about 20 years ago when I was in the dental field talking to a patient of mine who carried around this big attaché with all kinds of documents, because she said her identity was stolen, and at that point there were no laws in place. There was no way to recoup your losses. She said this person had committed crimes in her name, so she had to carry all of this information with her so that everywhere she went, we would know it was her.
It's kind of crazy, because now they have passports for people that have been victims of identity theft, so that they know if they do get stopped by the authorities that they're able to show them something that says, please, could you dig a little deeper here? This isn't me.
And I mean, we're glad these people paved the way for the rest of us. Now there's at least some checks and balances in place. But I guess, are we somewhat culpable? I don't like to use that word, but it's true.
It's very true. I mean, the U.S. has one of the biggest problems because of the way we use our Social Security number as an identifier. It's attached to everything, where we live,
Right.
The kind of school our kids can go to, the cars we can afford, everything is there with that number. So since even the day that we're born, today the kids are getting their Social Security numbers at the hospital or within a few weeks later.
Right.
That there's a lot of exposure there, and fortunately more safeguards are being put in place, but what's already existing in thousands, if not millions, of databases
Right.
from what we've given up in the past.
And I mean, I personally have just gone through this myself. My credit cards were
Mentioned.
taken, and I luckily had some time to make the phone calls and to get the credit report and all those things. But the people I think about are the elderly, or maybe people who are having severe adversity, maybe they're ill, and these things happen to them. So what can we do that's easy before this happens to kind of prevent it?
Sure. It's all about awareness, because we have habits that were developed years and years. 10 years ago, they might have been fine to throw something out. We've made room in our home, not just for the recycling bin, but for the shredder. So we have to
Right.
be making sure that we are shredding. And one of the bad habits I had was, you know, having things in a pile next to the shredder. Well, you got to make sure you do shred it, because it is a vulnerable situation.
Is that really necessary?
It is, because the dumpster diving is something that people go and looking for. Once you put your trash out on the curb, it is public property. Years ago, thieves would go through, you know, your garbage, and they'd have to go through the cat litter and the tuna cans. And it was kind of messy, but they could find that information. Today, it's a nice, clean recycling bin. What are you putting in there? Make sure you open up all your mail and take a look at it, because the banks are becoming more discreet. You're getting a white envelope,
Right.
and your ATM card is in it.
Right. And also, one of the things in your tips here that we can actually tell people how to get, that I thought was interesting, you say don't put your bills in the mailbox with the red flag up.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. Tell folks why that's not smart.
It's not smart, because they, you know, our postmen are fantastic. Postal service is great, but they don't have special powers that tell them to come and go get this. Everybody can see that you have mail there. So if you're mailing something to, such as a birthday card with no check, fine. But if it's got your check in it that you're mailing to your niece or your grandkid or whatever it may be, what else is in there? Your signature, your account number, your tracking number, all of that that is
Wow.
there for them to be able to grab. So try and use the blue box, or the post office itself when sending more things that are a little bit more sensitive.
Do you think that we're becoming a society of paranoid people because of this? I mean, gone are the days when we can just relax.
Yeah.
It's kind of discouraging.
It is discouraging. It's funny because we talk about, I do identity theft awareness seminars, and I clarify to people it's not a paranoia seminar. We just have to be more watchful. So again, those habits from years ago, which were fine, we need to be more cautious today, especially when you have a tough economy. People that are desperate, they can't get an apartment, they can't find a job, they're going to take more desperate measures, and if your information is vulnerable or available to them, it could become tempting.
Okay. What are the most common ways, the mistakes that people make that are the easiest things for us to talk about today that people can start doing? We talked about the shredder, not leaving your mail in the mailbox. What else are some easy things that we can do?
I mean, things such as having where your mail is directed. So for you ordering checks from your bank, for example, not having them delivered to your house where they sit outside all day till you come home.
Right.
That's something you could have maybe delivered to the bank, or have a post office box if you're in an area that is higher risk, just a lot of activity. The other things that you can do as well is really question people. When somebody says, I need your social security number, ask them why. How are you going to store this information? When CVS says to you, I need your name, phone number, and social security number to get a $3 rebate card because
Right.
I didn't have my receipt, I said to her, no, you can't have that information. That is plenty for them to work with in terms of starting to work on your identity.
Okay. I also think, too, it has to do with how the criminal speaks to you. Because if the person sounds educated, bright, and they sound friendly, I'm more apt to think, oh, this sounds like it's on the up and up. So how do we make sure that the people we're giving the information to are really on the up and up?
It's a good question, because what happened in certain parts of the country, they would have people that would call up elderly, for example, something we were talking about earlier, and they would say they're from the Social Security Administration, and the caller ID says they're from the Social Security Administration.
Now, how do they manage that?
That there are ways for them to be able to do that, even to not only direct to say what the caller ID is going to be, but change their voice from male to female or vice versa.
Really?
So they would call these elderly people and say, you have a problem with your check, you need to come in so we can clear it up. And the person, of course, is infirm, she can't leave the house, it's 2 hours away. And she says, well, I'm sorry, I don't know how to leave, and they're panicking. Oh, maybe I can help you over the phone. So something like that, when you're getting solicitations at home, I'm having dinner, let me call you back, where's a number I can reach you? Don't talk with them. My mom actually did this the other day, didn't do what she was supposed to do the other day, but she was talking to somebody who said, she's diabetic, we've got a new machine, it's probably covered by your health insurance. She says, I already have one. And they said, well, this one is free, it's probably covered if you want to give us your doctor's name and his phone number.
That all sounds pretty innocent to me. It does, but
yeah.
I would
be scammed. She knew better,
scammed.
but the information they were asking for. And I said, what else did you give them? She said, my social security number.
Oh, no.
And she's been to one of my seminars. I said, what were you thinking? And I said, check the caller ID. And she did. We called the number. It wasn't in service. And I said, do you know the name of the person you spoke to? No.
Oh, my
And
Lord.
so we were very concerned about it, and we said, okay, we got to just make sure that she's not giving that kind of information. And of course, she's got so many doctors calling her, doing things that she's expecting phone calls from them.
Well, and it's scary when they tell you it's something about your money that you get so caught up in your brain with, oh no, I'm in trouble, something's wrong, that you don't really, I think as clearly as you would normally.
In fact, another company, sort of like eBay, that would email somebody and say, your account's about to expire, they were bidding on something, you need to update it now. So they're panicking, I'm going to lose the sale, and they would go click.
Right.
And instead of going into ebay.com, it was going into ebey.com. And they didn't realize they were being redirected into another site.
Some of these thieves, if they made these lovely things that they do a full-time job, they'd be all set, because the research they're doing to get these things done, it's
very
incredible.
lucrative. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So what do you do after you realize you've made a blunder? You realize, uh-oh, you hang up, or like your mom did, thank God she told you
She did, yes.
that she made the call.
Yeah.
So what do you do after the fact?
You want to make sure that if you can also call, for example, the Better Business Bureau, find out if there's anybody who's doing a current scam. The Attorney General's office might have some information, but she wants to make sure she's looking at her credit card statements and her bank statements, make sure there aren't any unauthorized charges that are there.
Okay.
One of the scary things, though, I do want to mention is people tend to think that identity theft is only financial or credit card related. We hear about that. Medical identity theft is huge.
Well, tell us about that. What
That
is
is actually, we have a Reader's Digest copy.
they did an article.
They did an
about
article
that?
on it, and
Medical theft. Oh my
it
goodness.
is.
What
So
will they
somebody
think of
using that
next?
information, they have the doctor's information, they have her medical information, they have her social security number, they know where she lives and the phone number, and people are dying to get into the hospital using your medical benefits, so they could change
Really?
your information, and you might find that you've been charged with getting a bill from the doctor's office that says you had your leg amputated. And this was an actual case. The guy got a bill, and it was probably the easiest.
This does not happen often. I am
no,
shocked.
it is because people, actually, you remember back in the day, Friends was on TV, and Monica gave her information to whatever,
Somebody
Jennifer,
okay.
saying, here, you don't have health insurance, use mine just to get, medication for your cold or whatever.
Okay.
Something as simple as that. But this guy actually used his information to have a leg amputated, and it showed him now as a diabetic, and it was the easiest solution to an identity theft to prove it that it wasn't him, because he went
leg
out.
is still there.
Yeah, he said, "Look, I look
my
like I'm an
goodness.
amputee," and so he was able to quickly disprove it. But something like that could be
Unbelievable.
life-threatening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take our midpoint break here, but when we come back, I'd like to talk some more about other types of identity theft and really what are the steps you should take. I know the first thing I did when it happened to me was go right online and look for Experian, and I contacted them immediately. There was an issue with that too, because you type in freecreditreport.com, and some of these credit reports are not free.
Yeah, we have to be leery about
Yeah.
all the programs that are out there, definitely.
Yeah, because they tell you it's free, and then it's if you buy this product, it's free. So there's really only one place to get the free credit report. What is that?
That's annualcreditreport.com. It's an through the FTC
So
site. you'll see it there.
annualcreditreport.com and the FTC. So we have to look for their symbol to make
You'll
sure
see
that that's right?
when you go into that, they'll tell you you can do it by mail, you can do it by phone, you can do it by email as well, online.
And you think when that happens to somebody, probably to just have your accounts flagged would be smart to
It
do,
is a smart
right?
thing to do, and if you are a victim of identity theft or fear that you are one, you're entitled to have those documents released to you. Under Massachusetts law and federal law, you're entitled to 3 credit reports, one from each of the 3 repositories every year at no cost. They don't give you your score.
Right.
So if you see a score attached to a free credit report, chances are there's a fee.
Okay.
That's a clue that there will be a fee attached.
Okay, I thought though that every time you get your credit report, doesn't that send flags up with the banks? I've heard people say, we don't want to ask for that too often, because then when you go to apply for credit, there'll be an issue because they'll wonder why you're doing
this was a
that.
soft hit and a hard hit. If something's looking to actually apply for a line of credit, it would be a hard hit and it might lower your score. Cleaning up your credit report is also something that might lower your score if you're realizing that.
goodness.
Yeah, so it's kind of a catch-22. Job seekers who clean up, they say this is a good time to clean up my credit report. Employers are looking at their credit history, and if they see that activity and the things that have gone on, that it's something that raises a flag for them, even though the job seeker who's unemployed says this is a good time to get my finances in order.
Fascinating. This is why we're going to have her back for a second time. But stay right there. We're going to talk a little bit more about identity theft, what you can do if you think it's happened to you. And we're also going to talk about Julie's pro bono seminars that are available for nonprofits, because we really can only cover so much here in this half an hour, and in the next half an hour we're going to spend, and there's so much to say.
There really
So stay
is.
right there. We'll be back with more of Where's Wilmington right after this.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European pro golf tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 110. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Where's Wilmington. I'm Lisa Capala, and I have with me Julie Gershon. She is from Unique Benefits Group. We are talking about identity theft and you, right? So is there hope? I mean, all that stuff we just said, it's a little disheartening, yeah?
It can be disheartening, and it does take more diligence, but if people are reviewing their bank statements in a timely manner, their credit card statements in a timely manner, and they're letting those financial institutions know about something that's unusual, they've got good measures in place to help with that.
Right.
That's when we get lax. If we don't look at things, we do have a due diligence to make sure that whatever purchases we have are our own. But the same thing as well, too, how are you disposing of your personal information once you're done with it? Are you shredding it? Are you burning it? Are you just putting it out in the trash? Or what are you also doing in terms of when people ask you for some information? And a lot of the firms and doctors' offices, dentist office, anywhere you go, they still have a space, social security number. And they shouldn't be asking for it. How are they storing it? The mass privacy laws are huge. They're some of the most stringent in the country.
Okay, but isn't there a fear that if we say these things, that the offices are going to go, You know, I mean, there's a sense that if I am so protective, nobody's going to want to be my friend.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that how you feel?
But there's certain people only who are entitled to that information.
Okay.
The thing is like most of us could, if I asked you for your Social Security number right now, Lisa, it would probably just roll off your tongue.
Yep.
And everybody
until last week, I probably would have given it to you.
So now we need to say, okay, that's not necessary.
Right.
If you look at your driver's license, it has an S number now.
Right.
And you might try offering that in its place and say, here, I
Okay.
can give you this. So you want to challenge anybody who asks for it. But the thing is that you want to be aware that maybe it's not appropriate for them to have it.
Okay. So it's a mindset shift.
It is.
It's a shift from, and I
More
like the word you're
protective.
using, awareness. You're not trying to be difficult or make anybody's life miserable. You just want to protect yourself.
And they know they're not supposed to be asking
And I'll
for
tell
it,
you what
too.
else too. Nobody's really talking about all the money that this is costing us, because people kept saying to me when this happened to me, well, just, it's covered, don't worry. All of this money that things are covered with comes from you and me.
Yeah.
That's how the prices of things go up. That's how our
consumers, yeah.
interest rates go up on our cards. So, it may feel like we're getting paid back. My cards were immediately closed. Everything was restored to me immediately. I was very happy about that. But I have to wonder where the money comes from. Because the people that stole my credit cards also stole merchandise too. So that's the store, that's them, that's me, and it seems like our whole country is really being paralyzed by this. It's a big
It
deal.
is a big problem. I mean, billions of dollars are lost every year. So even if I'm not a direct victim of identity theft, as consumers, we are feeling it
Right.
with higher prices on the shelves or service charges or things that are going to be able to, because the banks are losing tons of money.
And how many times have you been into a department store, let's say, and maybe a medium department store, not even Nordstrom's or something like that, and they don't ask you for your ID when you
So many
sign for a
places
purchase?
don't. Yeah.
That happens to me all the time. Now I'm going to make them ask me, but that's how these people can use your information, because no one is really watching the store.
I'll tell you, Market Basket and Christmas tree shops are two places that frequently, if I hand them a card, they say, "Can I see an ID, please?"
So they're doing
And
the right thing.
They do, and I actually says see ID, and I do have my signature next to it. But I
Right.
asked them to see ID, but nobody's looking at it. We're a touch and go society.
Right.
Nobody's even handing a card. You don't even sign for a $50 charge. So the post office
Right.
has a limit now, and CVS.
And especially with the holidays coming too.
Yes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about website security. And I know, again, there's so much we can cover. You do pro bono seminars, so let's handle that before we go on to the next chunk.
Sure. One of the things we do, and it's actually become different niche markets. We've done it for the high school here in Wilmington, for job seekers and college-going students,
Right.
what to do, what not to do, and unfortunately a lot of the schools are requiring their Social Security number online as they have to fill out their applications. We do it for seniors. We've done it for a couple of senior centers here in Wilmington.
Good.
For educating them of what to look for, because they are such a high target. And as you can imagine, Florida is the #1 state for identity theft with their
Right.
high senior
Wow.
population. We do a general identity theft, which we've done at the library before, a
Excellent.
couple of years ago as well,
Okay,
too.
so folks can contact you if they're nonprofit.
They can. We do a certain number every year at no cost
Okay.
to help educate.
Okay, and as far as if they want more help purchasing services you might offer, that's something you can talk to them.
We can talk,
as
and we
well.
talk how to analyze, to evaluate a service as well too, because there's so many out there. And as you said,
Right.
you're going in to get your credit report for free, and there was a service attached to it.
Right. And you, one of the things I read in this that you gave me says no one can protect you 100% from identity theft.
There really isn't. And it's really funny because one of the first books that came out from the dummies, which I think everybody knows, is Preventing Identity Theft for Dummies.
Right.
And the second version that came out, really took it home, and by saying that identity theft for dummies, the word preventing is gone. The Idiot's
That's
Guide.
interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting.
isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And recovering from identity theft. The idiots are assuming you're going to be a victim, and this is what you need to do.
Right, and the recovery process, it takes a while because I
can.
feel very violated. And I know
Yeah.
I was thinking of Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, and I think that really applies to when this happens to you. First there's the shock and the denial, how could this have happened to me? Then there's, the anger and the frustration, and then there's the sadness, how it can take a while to get over this.
It can.
And I know that they don't always act, the villains, if you will, with your credit card information right away.
Yes, they can
You
sit
may
on it.
think, okay, I'm all set, but it's not probably all
Now,
set.
they could have sold it to somebody else, and I don't want to scare you at all, but people
Right.
who've been a victim have a higher chance of being a
No,
victim
I was smart.
again.
I had your paperwork, and I flagged everything, and everything is safe. So if you villains are watching, you can't get my stuff, which is good.
And it's funny too, because it has been equated to financial rape, and they say, people
Yeah.
just feel so violated. violated by it. And because it's a faceless crime, a lot of the times we don't know who the perpetrator is.
Right.
That person's not seeing the impact on your life.
Right, and I mean, you know, yes, my credit cards were in a vulnerable place, so there's that feeling inside of, oh, I did this to myself, which is natural, but nobody should really feel that way, you know. People just shouldn't take your stuff, period. But there is that part of you that sort of feels like, what could I have done differently? It's a terrible feeling to have, and I really don't wish it on anybody.
No, it isn't, and because we do try to be protective. So I was giving you an example earlier where I was being protective of my data, and I insisted on doing something online which I wasn't comfortable with. They said, no, you have to do it, and I said, I'm not happy with your website, but they gave me no choice, and they said I should feel secure. And I got a few weeks later, I got a letter saying you've been breached.
So a lot of people this time of year, November, December, you know, January even, is holiday time.
Yes.
And I love to do my shopping online. I usually use Amazon. But I'm sure there are a lot of other specialty sites. How do we know that they're safe? Do we just look for the little green check and hope that's okay?
Yeah, I mean, you can look for the safe box. You can look for HTTPS, which means that it's a secure site. One of the things that's scary, though, as far as vulnerability and temptation, is that there are cookies, there are trackers that say, oh, I'm looking for shoes here, and the next thing you know, you're getting pop-ups that say, hey, there's a shoe sale here.
Yes.
So one of the things you want to do in a case like that is go and find them on their own. Never click on a site that's being presented to you or a link that's being presented to you.
Okay.
Go Google them, do some research. If there's no physical address for them or a way to contact them, you want to be the one doing the solicitation to them, not them coming to you.
Right.
So things like that where you can do your due diligence, find out if these are credible places, because if it sounds too good to be true, chances are.
Probably is, I know. Do you ever think we'll be able to stop this from happening?
Oh gosh, no.
Really?
No.
You really don't?
No, I mean, this is an international phenomena. We're hearing more about identity theft now, but it's not a new crime.
Right.
You know, this is something where the laws are coming into play. There are laws that are stating that stores or businesses have to disclose that they've had a breach within a certain time period. Right. In Massachusetts and along with many other states, they have to have a system in place. You might have heard of WISP, written information, privacy policy, that they have to be able to show what they're going to do in the event of a breach. So even though we're hearing more about it now, it's an old crime.
Right. Well, and like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, thank goodness for the people who went through what they did to get these laws and things in place to help us. It's unfortunate that happened to them.
Yeah, unfortunately it has to be reactive.
Yes.
Yeah,
but it's just too bad that we have to change our whole way of thinking based on a few bad apples.
Small measures, but it's being prudent with your information. For example, I did bring you a little gift.
Yes. Show that.
This is an Illuma wallet, and as seen on TV. But in any case, it's RFID protected, which means that if there's some kind of, if you have a little emblem on your card, and they had this on the news a few months ago, somebody at an airport, for example, can come by you and they would scan your pocketbook without even having, and it would actually read.
I'm never leaving the house again.
Never leaving. So when my niece went to Israel for the summertime, I gave her one of these because she was going to be in so many airports.
Right.
And this way, just to help be a little bit more protective, because of course if it happens internationally, it's even that much harder to fix.
Yeah.
They can't track it down. Not that they're able to. There's less than
the
a
phone calls.
The phone calls.
You're going to be calling, Israel every other day to find out what's going on?
Find out what's going on with your bank account. So she'd be watching these things. She actually, called up our investigators and said, what can I be doing while I'm overseas to take extra measures because she was international. So this is a little gift for you so that you can have that.
So that's something that we want to think about too then, if we are doing some international travel.
What are you taking with you? What's in your wallet? You've seen it before. What's in your wallet? What are you carrying? And you really want to know what that is, because I'm sure for you, you probably had to think, what cards did I lose?
I knew the basic big guys were in there, but the little ones I didn't remember. And when I got the credit report, I was like, oh yeah, that's in there. Oh yeah, that was in there.
It's hard to remember, so we recommend people cleaning up the wallet, seeing what's in there. What do you really need to carry? You got that Radio Shack card to get the 15%, but you really use your MasterCard most of the time.
Right.
Tuck it away.
Do you find that the larger companies are better at catching this stuff than the smaller companies?
Banks, it's a good question. Financial institutions and banks, they do look for certain flags, but the holiday season.
I know, they're so busy.
It's not even that. Your buying patterns, which might be out of the norm, are out of the norm because of the holidays.
Yes,
purchasing.
and now I'm aware that they're going to be asking me 10 million questions anytime I do anything, but I'd rather be protected than not.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little
Anything else you'd like folks to know before we close? I think we've covered a lot of good things. Their tip sheet that they can get, what's on that and how do they get that?
Yeah, the tip sheet is great because it tells you how to get your 3 credit reports from the 3 repositories, the website there. It tells you how to get off mail lists, email lists.
And why would you want to be off the mail list? So there was something in here about those upgrades they send you, 6 months free interest or whatever. They took me off the list for that. I didn't ask them to do it, but they did.
The pre-approved credit card list, because if somebody steals that from your mailbox, and they decide to fill it out, they put a change change of address. You've got a card out there that doesn't exist. They're being a good thief. They make the minimum balance. They buy a big TV. They say, never mind. Lisa, you hear
All
about
right.
it 2 years later.
That's enough. I'm getting an island, and you can come live on it with me.
Thank you. I've
But they'll
always wanted
figure
an
out some
island.
way to get that too. But on the tip sheet, it will tell them how to get their credit reports, how to take your name off of all of these
yeah,
lists.
minimize what's
There's
coming
a lot
into
of good
your
stuff
life.
in here.
Yeah.
Really nice information that we covered, and they can get that by looking on your website.
They can look
or-
on my website. If they go there, they can actually go through Contact Me, and if they say, I'd like to get the copy of the list, I can email it to them.
Excellent.
Yeah. One thing I
Excellent.
would like to mention
Yes,
here
please do.
is that a lot of people use their ATM, their bank card, their debit card as a credit card.
Yes, and that was my problem. Yes, I didn't realize that my bank card was a charge card. I don't know how I couldn't have known that, but I didn't
It can
realize
be
that.
used that
So I
way.
closed everything else, and that's how they got
And
me.
people think that, because they're using it as a credit card, it's still attached to your bank. And with
Right.
credit cards, you have a 60-day window to report any activity that's not yours, and you've got a $50 liability. On your ATM card, you have 48 hours.
Good thing I was proactive. Woo.
And you also have a $500 liability.
Really, that's not what
So,
happened to me.
that's
I was
fine.
lucky.
You were lucky, yeah.
$1,400 they put it
So
all
if
back.
if you're catching it quickly, so
Yeah.
people that are going online and looking at their bank statement every day and they're using their ATM card, it's probably okay to do, but remember if they have access to it, because it's right into your account. If you've got a lot of money in there, some of the things that you might want to do is have a separate bank account for
Right.
that. Same thing with Christmas purchases that I'll mention here is use one card for all of your purchases online, so you can keep a
And I
better,
was
closer
worried too
tab.
because had I had auto pays on there, there would have been bank fees. Thank goodness I was lucky that I didn't have that. I
And
mean,
it's
it
one of
could
the
have been a
things
lot
people
worse.
forget, that when they close down certain things, they've got all those auto pays
Right.
there that they forget to tell them
Right,
about. And now
right.
you're in default.
I know, but everything's okay. So I want to thank you, Julie. I feel like we covered a lot here, but there's so much more we can say. So, do check our schedule, because you're going to come back in February and talk to us about tax identity
Yeah.
theft, which
A lot of
I
money
can't
went out
even
last year to
imagine
the wrong
about
people.
that.
Yeah.
That is even more frightening. But we don't want you to be scared. We want you to be proactive and aware.
And feeling in control.
And feeling in control. Yes, I like that. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you, Julie, for
Thank you
coming
for having me,
to be with
Lisa.
us. I appreciate it. And do remember, the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV. Thanks for watching.